the body seeks pleasure.
Yes.
So that came up in a video that we were doing last week, and we decided to kick it around a little bit more. Carlin, what are your thoughts on that?
Pleasure is the natural state.
Mhm.
And I always
Yes.
say this to clients. Women have an organ on their body, the internal clitoris dedicated solely to pleasure. That tells
Mhm.
me that pleasure serves a function for our
Yes.
wellness. So whether or not you believe that we evolved or we created, there's a function to pleasure, a role of pleasure. Pleasure is natural. It's our bodies are wired for pleasure, endless
Mhm.
pleasure, our whole lives.
Right. Exactly, exactly. And I even think going beyond sexual pleasure. I mean, there's sensual pleasure, there's feeling good, there's happiness, all of those pleasurable things our body likes. I mean, it releases chemicals, it releases endorphins and dopamine, and it makes us better humans. But what blocks us from pleasure, Caroline?
Shame,
Mhm.
guilt, and
Mhm.
trauma.
Yes. Yes.
And lack of information about how
Mhm.
to connect to pleasure, because pleasure has to be taught. Very often, if you're pre-orgasmic and you're not having orgasms on a regular basis and you don't know how to touch yourself, you'll start having sleep orgasms. You wake up in the
Mhm.
middle of the night. So the
Right.
body's like, finally, the mind
Yes,
shut down. So
yes.
that's how shame and guilt block. They stay in the mind. I'm in my mind. I can't get in my body. Pleasure is about being connected and going within and connecting to the body.
Exactly, exactly. The mind, the mind is a motherfucker. I'm just gonna say it. You know, it blocks what is naturally in the body. Let the body lead and quiet the mind. Quiet the mind, because the mind will bring up shame and guilt and all the reasons why you shouldn't have pleasure.
The resistance,
Mhm.
right? So how do we get the mind to take a back seat? I mean, that's the
Yes.
big one. And sometimes we have to create a ritual and just say, I don't do shame. Like when we have the
Right.
thought, we block it because
Mhm.
the brain is plastic. So if we
Yes.
want to wire our brains for pleasure, guess what? We're
Mhm.
going to experience a lot of pleasure. And that's the beautiful thing about
Mm.
orgasm. At the
Mhm.
moment of orgasm, the body is leading and the mind takes a back seat. And once we can connect to that and know
Yeah.
what that feels like and know how to get there, that's when we can like flip that switch in our mind and our body
Mhm.
and our life. So,
Yes, yes.
orgasm is really the way to heal shame, guilt, and trauma.
Yes, yes. We need to make the choice. We need to choose pleasure. We need to choose our bodies. We need to value our bodies. And we need to value our bodies with pleasure, not with more makeup and exercise routines. And I mean, all of those things are great and fine, but pleasure, it's in the driver's seat.
I had to actively work to accept pleasure in my life. I
Mhm.
was raised in a Christian nationalist cult. And I remember telling my mom when I was 7, asking her why everything that felt good was wrong. So
Mm.
I'm here to tell you that you can rewire your brain for pleasure. And it's a little bit every day. And even if it's as simple as putting your hand down over your clothes, cupping your vulva, taking a deep breath, and thinking a positive thought like, I love you. I love me. I am
Yes.
good. That's how we start believing and getting closer and closer to that healing experience of
Mhm.
orgasm because you are good and we all deserve pleasure.